Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. Welcome, everybody, to this first correspondent webinar with you. Thank you very much for attending here to our webinar. This is Mark.
Hello, my name is Nicolas. Nice to have you here. Warm welcome from my side also.
And we would like to introduce our first speaker today. And please, Mark, could you introduce our speaker?
Yes, so our today's speaker is Dr. Nicolas Najm. He is one of our top ActiveSmile aligner experts. So he is responsible for all the ActiveSmile treatment plannings for French customers and French cases. And his topic today is 5 strategies in controlling root tip with ActiveSmile. In this context, I would also like to announce that we are launching the brand new and very comfortable and easy to use ordering platform, the Trusted Plan Portal, now also available or very soon available for our ActiveSmile aligners. So, Dr. Najm, we are very much looking forward to your presentation today, and we wish all participants a very good webinar. I hope that it's valuable for you, and yes, enjoy it.
Yeah, we have something to tell you. Please, if you have any question, here, more or less here in the middle, you can find the question and answer area. So please, you can go here and if you have any question, please let us know. At the end of this webinar, we are going to answer almost all the questions. Right? So, thank you very much, Mark and Federico, and enjoy this first webinar.
Thank you very much. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Mark and Federico, for the wonderful presentation. Thank you for everyone to joining us. I'm sure that I have lots of friends everywhere, and unfortunately, I will be alone talking to my PC. You can see me, but I cannot see you. But I guess it's okay. We can communicate. I'd like to start with a very nice and slide that I like a lot, and it's really amazing how we can use the technology in every aspect of our lives today to connect each other, and how humans can bring bridges together just to overwhelm and overcome all the life's challenges and obstacles that we are living today. It's amazing. We are living, everyone in a continent today, and we are just connected through this technology. And I want to insist on the word together, because together we can do everything. So, for those who don't know first of all, I have lots of thanks for lots of people. I don't want to name everyone, but I'm very honored to present this product today. President has been here for a long time, like more than 100 years, 300 employees. They are very well known for the precision in orthodontics. They are in a very high quality materials, and now they are opening up to a new aligner products that we call ActiveSmile. Back to me a bit. My name is Dr. Nicolas Najm. I have 2 practices, one in the south of Paris, in Chambly, France, which is not very far from the airport, and another one in the center of Paris, in the upper region. One of them which is almost exclusively aligners, and the other one, lots of aligners for adult cases. I use everything that you can even imagine, the brace, lingual, whatever you want. But I like aligners for lots of reasons, and I will try to explain why I like them. This is my dear team, all the colors of France, as you can see. Lots of good humor, lots of energy, and I count on them a lot. This is something that's very personal to me. I'm sure that lots of you behind your screens today will not really agree, but this is something personal. I do believe that adult orthodontics, and I repeat, adult orthodontics, will pass by aligners in like 5 years or even less. I do believe this is something very personal, and I have seen the evolution of this since 2006. And I'm seeing things, how they are moving so fast. So I guess everyone has to put him or herself inside the train. I will try to start this seminar in trying to convince you, or try to talk you out, and why you have to use aligners in your orthodontic practice today? Why aligners in our practice? And I will divide that in three perspectives. The perspective of the material itself, the perspective of the doctor, and the perspective of the patient. So, in all kinds of industries, the technological progresses and the demands of consumers advance mutually. But it's finally the consumer who wins. People who can reorganize their strategies, taking into account the demand of their consumers, and they are ready to change and adapt, will not only stay competitive, but they will also dominate their market. So it has changed the orthodontic world. Aligners, when they came, they have changed the conception of orthodontics. For us as practitioners, as orthodontists, for our patients, and for all the orthodontic industry. When I started receiving patients coming to my office, I started to have much more patients coming. Adults started to come. These adults didn't want to start an orthodontic treatment by that time because there was only lingual or buccal braces. So when they started to come to my office and to my friends' offices, of course, because they are asking for this. So the thing that has changed with time is the consumer demand. And if you agree with this or not, it's kind of a tsunami that has entered inside our practice and it's changing how we perceive orthodontics today. So you cannot stop the tsunami. You cannot stop a patient coming to you and asking for aligners, and if you try to convince him this is not the best option for him, then you say, this is not for you, then you will not stop him. He will go to another one, or even he will go to online and then he will order his aligners. You cannot outrun a tsunami because it's already here, and sticking your head inside the sand is not the best option either. So you have to adapt to it, and you have to change to it. And there are two kinds of orthodontists. One of them will say, I am happy with what I have, I'm in my comfort zone, I don't want to change and take risks and make my patients take risks as well. So I will stay in my box, in my comfort zone, and I will not change. There's another kind of orthodontist who says, this is a change, but this is an opportunity, this is a chance for me to try to understand orthodontics in a different way. And believe me, when you try to understand the biomechanics of plastic, and then I will talk about this a lot today, you will understand things in a different way, and you will solve the problem in another way. And believe me, you will become, I'm talking about myself, I became a better orthodontist, I became a better practitioner because I started to do aligners. Because I have, my mind started, like the gymnastics of my mind have changed, and I'm trying to solve the problem in another way. So, who wants to live in the same ocean anyways, right? Who wants to do the same things every day? You want to, it's something for you. It's like a challenge for you to change your habits and to differentiate yourself. Of course, all the people are the same and I'm different, and when I'm different, I attract other people and attract different people. So this is very obvious. These are why you should use aligners in your practice. This is something inherent to the material. Effective, affordable, now it becomes affordable, invisible, comfortable, removable. This is obvious for everyone. I will not go into details of this, everyone knows this. But at the same time, human beings search for simplicity. And simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. You don't have to have all this on your back, even though if you have a mask, to be the best orthodontist. You don't have to have all these appliances to be the best orthodontist. That doesn't mean that you don't want, yet that doesn't mean that you cannot increase the efficiency of the appliance with accessories. Of course not. It's the opposite. And as many of my colleagues, and I appreciate, for example, the lessons that have been taught by Dr. Ravinanda, by Dr. Ken Najm. When you have an appliance, you use it as a tool. When you want to increase the efficiency, then you use the accessories. You don't start with the accessories first. you go with the maximum of your appliance, and then you say, okay, I want to distalize the upper second molar more than 4 millimeters, then maybe I should use something else other than only aligners. Yes, but as long as it is simple, keep it simple. Because this is the new world that we are living in today. Less is the new more, right? The less is the new more. And going back to the doctor's perspective, not only the materials perspective, I mean, when I see the patient, the lingual patient in my clinic, I know from all the patients I see during the day that this is the lingual patient. I can see him from 3 meters behind. Maybe I'm not very good at it as I'm okay with aligners, but I mean, you can see the difference between two doctors. One is making lingual orthodontics in his office, and one is making aligners. I started to become talkative, something that I had never been before, believe me. I never talked too much to my patients before I started to do aligners. And now when I'm doing aligners, because there's nothing, I mean, of course there are lots of things to do, and especially beforehand, not in the clinical time, in the chair time, no, before, of course, definitely. But now I'm just communicating more, the patients are happier, I'm seeing them less, and it changes the perspective of orthodontics for me. And this is a very funny, I mean, this is a very known statement of Les Brown. I don't know if you know Les Brown. You have to go on YouTube and type Les Brown. He's a very motivation kind of guy who gives you lots of motivations. He just pushes your morals up. I sometimes when I'm down, especially in these kinds of situations when you're at home all the day, what you want to do. So I listen to him sometimes, it gives my motivation up. And he says, do what is easy and your life will be hard. And do what is hard and your life will become easy. I say, really? Are you serious? I mean, of course not. Do what is hard and your life will be hard. Do what is easy and everything will be easy, right? Why should you work harder if you can work smarter? Why should you annoy yourself if you can and you have the means to can. And I don't have too much time to talk about all this, but I'll just give you some pinpoints. Staying in the doctor's perspective and the advantages of aligners inside your clinic, you have an invisible employee. This is an employee that never exists in your clinic. It is an invisible employee, which is called plastic, which is called an aligner. So this employee doesn't get sick, this employee doesn't ask for raise, this employee doesn't nag, and this employee never gets pregnant. This employee stays there every day in your practice ready for action, and even when you are not there. Look at now, the only patients that I'm following today are aligner patients, because they are the only patients my plastic employee exists, and my plastic employee works for me. This is what one of the advantages that you have in your clinics. And going to the patient's perspective as well. So not only the appliance, not only the doctor's perspective, but also the patient's perspective. It has been very quite known that aligners, when you put the first aligner in it hurts, of course, there's like the reaction of the bone, but it hurts much less. It has been studied and it has been demonstrated, much less, 2 times less than putting braces on. And especially when you change the aligners, because the forces are very minute, and they're all programmed or pre-programmed, you don't have the human error, and the forces are very, very light. So when you change the aligners, the patient will feel much less pain and discomfort with respect to a patient who's coming for a regular visit to an orthodontic office. So yes, dentist is never, there's always some pain, but comparatively for a patient, it's much less painful. And I do know that we all know how to get a patient from A to B. We all know to get them by braces, by lingual brackets, by whatever you want to, we know how to do this. But what is the most important thing is the most amazing way that the patient will remember us after his treatment, how we did the treatment for him. The most amazing way that the patient will live during these 2 or 3 years during this treatment and how he will remember us later on. How many times you have asked adults when they are in your chair and you ask them, have you ever been in an orthodontic treatment before? And they said, oh yes, I really remember this very well. It took me 3 years. I couldn't talk to a girl, I couldn't kiss anyone, and then it was horrifying. It was painful. I finished with lots of feelings, and I had a very horrified time. So it's not only the perspective of the comfort of the practitioner, it's also the perspective of loving our patients, of giving them the best experience and giving them the best memory ever for the future, because we love them and because we want the best for them. So I open this question for everyone, and I want just to ask this open question. If you were confident that you will have the same treatment, I have to remove this, outcomes, like this, okay. If you're confident that you will have the same treatment outcomes with aligners as comparing them with braces, okay, which treatment option would you choose for yourself? First question. If you are sure that you will have the same outcomes, okay, of course. And the second question is that, would you still choose braces on aligners for your children? We had a small, I asked my assistants 1 year ago to gather to sort out all the treatments that I have done with my patients, dentists, orthodontists, and all the medical staff. So they sorted out all these people, the dentist, orthodontist, and the medical staff. And we have realized among 38 people who have undergone treatment with me, and all these people are in the medical staff, none of them have chosen braces on their teeth. They have all chosen aligners. So if these people who represent the medical field, who are dentists and orthodontists, they choose only aligners for themselves, then the next question that comes on my mind is, what do you advise your patients if they asked you today, what's the best option for me, doctor? This is just an open question, and just to make you a little bit more cogitate and more think about things, because it made me not that. Oh my God, this is true. All the doctors, they have chosen aligners. Why should they choose braces for their peers? Why should they choose braces for their patients? If they love their patients, of course. And to finish the advantages and go inside the deep subject of tipping that all of you have come here, the aligner strategies and the aligner the mindset have changed a lot the communication in between the patient and the doctor. Because unfortunately and shockingly, 85% of financial success is due to our personality and the ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. Shockingly, only 15% is due to our technical knowledge. So when a patient comes to your clinic, you try to make him understand what you want to do for him. So you try to, with all the passion that you have in your heart, with all the love that you have for the orthodontics, with all the things that you have studied, and you try to learn on going to this place and this seminar to read books and stuff. You just try to communicate. But how do you communicate? We say, I will expand your teeth, I will procline your incisors, I will intrude. And for the patient, doesn't mean too many things except pain and discomfort. And this is how it looks like. So when aligners came and softwares came, they changed the perception of treatment plans and the perception of orthodontics as a whole. So one picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So imagine me now, today, I have this photo in front of me, and all of you are behind the photo, and I'm trying to explain what's on the photo to all you guys without you looking at the photo. Imagine how much effort I will have to put on myself, how much time and words I have to talk in order to tell you a small joke. And I'm sure now that everyone is smiling at this photo just because you looked at it in 2 seconds. So, and I'm not even sure that if I tried all my best to try to make you laugh or smile, I can do this with 1,000 words. And if the picture is 1,000 words, worth 1,000 words, a 30-second video is worth 720,000 words. Every time I say this, or all I have like goosebumps, it's all everywhere. I don't know why, I don't know. So if one picture is 1,000 words, then a 30-second video is worth 720,000 words. And this 30-second video goes like this. So this is the software that Akisma uses for the elaboration of the treatment plans. For people who are used a little bit about aligners, of course, we all know all the systems, and I always say this, and we also all the big companies, all the science that they have put inside the market, and because of this science, we try to evolve and we try to adapt as well. So you have the superposition tool. You can see this on the right side. You have the grid and the occlusion points from start to the end. You can see all the different stages of the treatment step by step. You can see the tip, the torque, the angulation, all these things that you are used to see, or if you don't use lots of aligners, you are impressed by the number of the information that you have when you move teeth. When you move any kind of set of teeth, either one, two, or lots of them, you will see all the movement that have been done from the start to the beginning. At the same time, you will see the stripping on the same chart, so if there's any stripping or not. And stripping is another subject. I will not have the time to talk about this today, but it is something, just one tip that I can give to you, that if you believe that you don't have to do a stripping for a case, it doesn't mean that you, because you are doing it with aligners, that you have to have stripping. I do see the same things as in my bracket cases. If I see a child, I never do a stripping, or almost never, when I have a child or a teen. I will never do stripping for someone who has aligners on. So, getting deep inside this, and then every time I talk about tip, they say, tipping with aligners? Are you serious? I mean, come on. And the guy gets angry, and he says, you cannot move the roots of the teeth with aligners, right? And this guy becomes like very nasty guy. So I don't know why. I guess it is something which is related to our mindset and how we see things. But aligners have a very bad reputation. They have a very bad reputation. This is the same guy, by the way. This child was very angry and then became like a mafiosa. But what's cute is that the mafiosa, he has a teddy bear on his back. I don't know why they have a bad reputation. Maybe when they started, everyone thought that this is an aligner tool only, and this is not a treatment tool. This is not something that you can do. Almost all you kind of the most common things that people say, tell me, aligners tip only crowns. The first is on the crown level. It's far from the center of resistance. We cannot have control the moment to force ratio. Aligners are removable. They apply intermittent forces on the crowns. We can never move teeth, right? This is the mindset of it's our mindset. But this is a limited mindset. And I will try to explain thoroughly today why is it limited and how we can overcome it by a little bit of imagination. Because the problem of orthodontics of orthodontists today is that they don't want to lose control. Because we know that if I have something is not tracking well with my bracket case, I just remove the bracket, change the information inside it a bit, put it upside down, change it, put another bracket, bend some wires inside it, add some torque, add some tip, whatever I want. I have the control at any moment of the treatment. However, when I am in an aligner case, I don't have the control because all the aligners are here, almost all of them are there. So, and this is one thing, and at the same time, I hit so many bad news about this. We cannot finish well about them. We have open bites, posterior open bites with aligners, and then people they are not putting them well and have failure here. The bad reputation kind of issue, you know. But once we try to understand the biomechanics of plastic, then things becomes much more easier. Then things become much more easier and much easier to understand. And when we understand them, we take control back. And when you take control back, then things become much more predictable. So, I will fly over. I know that there are lots of people behind screens now, and I know that lots of people have different kinds of levels. I will go just very fast on the basic levels. Sorry, my friends who are a little bit experienced, but I just have to cover all the mass. You will have your pie, the piece of the pie. So the experienced guys, they will have their piece of the pie. Wait a little bit. So just basic principles. When you apply force to the crown of the tooth, what will happen? It will procline. Okay, because the center of resistance is a little bit far from here, so you have this proclination is there. So the same kind of mechanism that you have when you have a removable appliance. Orthodontic into the bucket, right? This is very, very familiar. So this is what we think that aligners do. The only difference is that when you have an aligner on, you have the buccal part of the tooth. The buccal part of the tooth is covered with plastic. Okay? This is the buccal part, and this is the. Okay, it's a pity I cannot move because I like to draw and then move on all the place by my hands, by my legs. So when you push a tooth like this, definitely it will tip, or like this, let's say. Okay? But because the plastic covers the buccal side, there's another force coming from the other side which counterbalances the force that you're applying from the palatal side to the buccal side. And this force will equilibrate depending on the intensity of the force from F1, F2. It will equilibrate the root of the tooth. So if I want to apply a force without a counterbalancing force on the buccal, definitely go like this. But if I apply it like this and another one on the other side, I will just control more the root movement. Okay? This is very basic. Another basic principle is that braces and plastic, they don't work in the same manner. Oops, sorry, I have to come back, just. Okay. So, this is the plastic fellow on the right side, and this is the bracket fellow on the left side. So, brackets, they pull on the plastic pushes on surfaces. This is the Google thing that you can, when you want to have music, say, hello Google, and then now it's just getting crazy. Anyway, sorry for that. So if you have plastic pushes on surfaces, it does not pull. That is why the surface area where the plastic pushes on is critical. So this is an image, it's very obvious, and this is very clear. When you have a tooth which is a little bit on the palatal, you put some brackets on it, you pull it out from this place to another place. This is how braces work. In plastic pushes teeth from one place to another. So the most important thing in the conception of the plastic is that you have to understand, in order for the tooth to move inside the plastic, it has to have pushing surfaces. That means that the plastic has to apply as maximum as possible to the surface of the pushing surface. That means that the tooth has to be covered as much as possible by plastic. So we say plastics, the surface of the tooth is king, is extremely important. And this really is very important for the predictability of the type of the movement. This is basic rule. Another basic rule is called the hinge axis effect. So imagine you have a tooth which is similar to a door, and the door has two places, two hinge axes, which are really here, okay? So if you apply a force very near to the hinge axis, the door will move, but very slightly. If you apply a force far from the hinge axis, you will have a much better movement of the door because it is fixed by one place. This is what we call a hinge axis. Teeth and plastic, they move in a similar way. You have to consider them as doors. So when you want to move a tooth, you cannot move the mesial and distal at the same time because you will not respect the hinge axis of the door. So you have to stabilize one part and then push the other part, which is near the lock, this lock. And when you push it, it will swing easier. So this is what we call mesial in or mesial out, or distal in, distal out. That's the reason why it's always better. And I give you some example. Look at this example. Look at this tooth in particular. It will mesial out. The mesial part of the tooth will go out, taking into account the distal part. Okay, you see? So the mesial going out, taking into account the distal stays stable. And this is called the hinge axis effect. And the third concept of the pure biomechanics is called the wrapping effect, which is extremely important to understand that as much as plastic as you have around the teeth, the better the teeth will move. So it is like a bottle of water or a bottle like this. If I want to move the roots, I just hold it around and then I move the roots wherever I want. If I want to move the roots on the mesial and distal, I have to go on this side of the interproximal surfaces, and then I move the roots like this. If I only have plastic on the buccal and the palatal sides, then these parts, of course, there's the proximal spaces. I cannot move the teeth like this in a normal way. So the wrapping effect is very important to understand. You have to wrap around, or grabbing effect, if you know what I mean, in order to make the root move more predictably. So, okay. You had told us that you have to have all the tooth wrapped by plastic, but you can as well understand when you have a tooth like this, you cannot just open the space in order for the plastic to go in between in these crowns in order to have a wrapping effect around the canine so that the root will go on the mesial and distal. Because simply the interproximal surfaces are closed. That's why we have to add an attachment on the tooth. Why? Because when adding an attachment on the tooth, it will change the disposition of the force applied on the tooth. So this is kind of attachment. You, instead of, because the plastic is moving in the direction of the root movement, then in the direction of the root movement, then applying the force where the arrows are located will make the root tip to the direction of the force intended to. And the longer the attachment, the better the force application, because there will be the moment will be bigger, and when the moment is bigger, the root will tip to the distal in this case. But knowing that these long attachments are extremely anesthetic, you can imagine having this attachment in the canine, in the left transfer incisor, and then the whole principle of the invisible orthodontics will all disappear, and the attachments are very big. That's why innovations that have been made by Line Tech have made the attachments are very, very small. And because they are very small and they're very far, the application of forces they still are the same, and they become much less visible, and they are much more static. Okay? So we can apply the forces here, and you can see the root moving like this. However, due to lots of reasons, and the reasons are the fact that having an attachment of teeth, first of all, it stays still anesthetic, okay? And you can clearly see the attachments of these teeth in front of these teeth, which are not very anesthetic at all. Patients are always telling us these are bumps, and they are like similar to braces. So, based on this fact, and at the same time, the roots of the teeth, the bone around the teeth, makes these movements, even with these attachments, not very predictable. On the other hand, the attachments are so small that you have really to be very careful in reproducing the same kind of geometry. So you have to have loops, you have to be very careful if an attachment gets a little bit off, then the application of force. So it is very operator dependent and patient dependent if he's careful about his attachments or not. And the third thing is that combining different movements simultaneously makes it more predictable. Makes it less predictable, sorry. That means if you want to have a dip and a torque at the same time, you cannot do this. If you want to have a dip and extrusion, you cannot. So if you want to, so you have to be a little bit more creative. That's why this is the principal subject today. We had to be a little bit more imaginative and creative to find solutions. So, okay, what are the solutions? I'll take this back up. So strategy number one, I just divided them in 5 different strategies so that to be clear, I will not show the best cases in the world. It's not at all my objective today. Today, I want you to learn 3, 4, 5, 6 things depending on your level and experience aligners. And I want it to be as clear as possible to make it clear that it's not a matter of me making I'm not the best and I will never be the best. It's not my purpose. I just want, when you finish this course, to say, well, Nicolas, he was a great guy. We learned lots of things from him, and that's it. Okay, strategy number one. So, create spaces in between teeth before tipping the teeth. Okay, when it is possible. So, when you have crowded teeth, and I will show an example, because the plastic is not grabbing them or wrapping around them, you have to create a little bit space. When I say a little bit space, it's much more enough. It's enough to make like 0.2 or 0.3 millimeters in between, interproximally, so that the plastic will not go inside. That's not possible because otherwise you will have to have lots of spaces. But it will grab a little bit more the incisal contours and the embrasures much better. And when you do this, you will have much more grip and much more control on the roots. So before tipping any kind of teeth, to try to find minute spaces, and minute spaces you maintain them. And how you can find this, depending on the case, definitely either expand a little bit, or you procline a little bit, or if you want to, but I don't like this, you can strip a little bit at the same time. So create very minute spaces before tipping the teeth. One. This is an example where you have +1 both sides, a little bit of overbite, a little bit of crowding, but look at this. So, going back to the same principles, I want to explain them in an example. Look at this tooth. Okay, I want to move this tooth outside to align it with all the arch. Well, if I started to just push it and then I will lose the mesial and distal surfaces, the tooth will be lost and then it will intrude. So the best way to do this is to expand a little bit, because expansion is recommended in this case, to find small spaces around it so that we have the wrapping effect around it and to have some spaces in between teeth. Tip this one because it has to be tipped into the mesial, and then after this, when it's tipped, I align them all together. Okay? And look at this one as well. Look at this one. Look at the lateral incisors on the other side. If I try to rotate this tooth in, like mesial in and distal out, right from the beginning, never it will work. Why? Because the plastic on the palatal side is not enough to grab the surface and to have this action on it. You get what I mean? What you have to do in this kind of scenario, for example, to immobilize this tooth, it has to stay immobile. It doesn't have to move at all, unless this tooth, the central incisor comes forward first, and then you have enough space to contact the palatal side of the lateral incisor. And when you have this grabbing effect, then you will rotate it. Okay? Got this? Got it? Okay, good. I believe that you got it. Okay, this is the result after 6 months. Okay, easy, very predictable. Okay, this is before and afters. Very easy and predictable. A little bit of expansion, proclination, and by the end, a little bit of tip. The same thing for the lower arch, by the same strategy. Okay, before, like this. And this is after. And when you look at the table, you can see that you don't have stripping at all. So I didn't use the stripping here in order to find space because I don't want to. I used stripping as the last tool. Okay, this is something that can do. I used to do this before, but he explained something else. So if you have a tool, why should you use this tool right from the start? You keep this tool with your pockets, right? Keep them here. And then I don't have any other choice than I have used my proclination, my expansion, my distalization, my everything, my intrusion, whatever I want to find space. And by the end, I look at the Bolton index. and then I find that at the bolt ends I need to strip, I will strip. If I find that I have an asymmetry in one way and I can resolve it by strip, I will strip. If I don't find any other space left because I have a periodontium which is like a little bit not very strong, and then I will strip, yeah, but I will not strip beforehand. Because if I strip, I will create a bolt-in discrepancy, which is extremely bad. And as I said before, if you don't strip in your braces cases, why should you strip with